Hello, my name is Chess. Today we are going to be discussing the game design in Minecraft. Minecraft is a sandbox, voxel-based video game that was first released as a development version in May 2009 and officially released in November 2011. It has grown to become by far the best-selling video game in history, with a total of over 238 million copies sold. It can be played on PC, mobile, and a wide range of consoles. The game features blocky, procedurally generated, near-infinite worlds where players can explore, mine, craft, and build. Depending on the game mode, they may be able to fight hostile mobs or play with others. The two main game modes are survival, where players must acquire resources to build with or maintain health, and creative, where they have unlimited resources, flight, and don't take any damage. There's no real goal of the game, though there are achievements and a final boss, which was important for the game's success by providing a target for speedrunners, but not important for the actual gameplay experience. The game has added a lot of interacting systems over the years, and allows for endless user-generated content like texture packs, servers, server plugins, skins, custom maps, mods, and mod packs. There are large communities built around multiplayer servers, mod packs, speedrunning, and recording or streaming gameplay. With the astounding popularity of Minecraft, it has clearly done some things right. I started playing when you could still play in the browser, and have probably over 1,000 hours in-game over the years, and watched about that same amount in YouTube videos of Minecraft content, which is a feat no other game has come remotely close to matching. Let's talk about some things it gets wrong, though. Back when Minecraft was in the alpha, it was difficult. You couldn't sprint to escape from mobs, health didn't regenerate, and food didn't stack. It was famously a struggle to survive your first night, with a lot of players just digging a hole and waiting for daylight. The difficulty of the game encouraged you to build a shelter, only venture out when it was safe, and slowly expand the safe zone. It kept you tied to your base, because venturing out and getting caught out at night was a huge risk. Adding hunger actually helped with the difficulty some due to passive health regeneration, but the game still encouraged sticking around where it was safe because there's no guarantee you would be able to find or grow food out in the world. The game encouraged the player to decorate their base and make it nice, since they spent half their time hiding from mobs there. Players thought of things like lava moats to keep mobs out, or observation platforms to safely view the mobs without being in danger. Being hard and requiring food upkeep encouraged a fortified base where players spent most of their time. Just about everything that has been added and changed since the alpha made the game less difficult, or at least differently difficult, and encouraged exploration. I like to think they realized the creativity, exploration, and customization is what makes the game great, not sitting in a dark hole in fear. Speaking of discouraging exploration, when you die in Minecraft, you drop all of your inventory and experience on the ground and respawn back home or at the world spawn. Back in the alpha, or in some other survival games, one could theoretically argue that whatever you're dropping doesn't really matter, since you could just go gather a replacement in a couple minutes. But I won't argue that, because if it's so trivial to go pick up your items or replace them, why waste the player's time making them do it? If it's supposed to make the game difficult after you lose, it only serves to punish players that are already having trouble. Sending someone into a death spiral by making the game harder every time they fail, or wasting their time with item recovery, is not respecting your players. In MMOs, corpse runs serve to drag out playtime and help balance multiplayer content, but in Minecraft you don't pay a subscription fee, so there's no financial benefit. And games like Terraria explicitly don't drop your inventory when you die, because they know it would be a massive pain to do so with no gameplay benefits. So why go out of your way to punish the players after they fail? People online might say that this is just the way survival games work, but the problem with that is, as far as I can tell, Most of the survival games that do this just blindly copied it from Minecraft after Minecraft popularized the survival genre. The idea of losing progress in games in general is old, and can be traced back to at least arcade games. Arcade games had limited lives and difficult gameplay so that you would die quicker and be forced to either put in another quarter to keep playing or leave and let someone else pay to play. When games started to move to consoles, everybody copied over the life system and difficulty because, after all, that's just what games do. Sometimes this helped out the game, because maybe a teenager only had one game to play for a long time, so being really difficult allowed a little bit of content to stretch out to dozens of hours. Most of the time, though, blindly punishing players for failing because you mistook punishment for difficulty is just bad game design. The odd thing is, video games are the only place I can think of where people have the belief that you have to punish failure or else success doesn't matter. Basketball would not be improved if every time a player missed a shot, they got teleported home and had to walk back to the court before they could keep playing. Blackjack would not have more players if every time you busted, the dealer would tase you. We know that we're not supposed to lose. If we're willingly playing a game that involves skill, then we want to win. If you look at games like Super Meat Boy, a brutally hard game, dying is so seamless and without punishment that it's like being teleported to the start of the level instantly. If anything, it almost rewards you for dying by making a more entertaining video of all of your failed attempts after you do beat a level. Even Elden Ring, a game designed specifically to be hard and have an oppressive atmosphere, doesn't have you drop your equipment when you die, just some currency. If you want to improve Minecraft, simply don't drop items on death. The player knows they died, they know they're not supposed to. And not being afraid of dying is not a drawback, since the happy block game for kids is decidedly not a horror game. Its core draw is creativity and exploration, not fear and stress. If you want to be afraid of losing things all the time, you're welcome to go play a mod pack like Journey to the Core and enjoy air quality, insanity from darkness, rotting food, extra worse creepers, torches lighting wood on fire, and realistic gravity for all blocks. And I'm not mocking players that want a hardcore experience. That's a legitimate recommendation. The ability to customize the game to have exactly the experience you want is what makes Minecraft so good. There's just no need to have defaults that pointlessly frustrate players, though. Speaking of pointlessly frustrating the player, creepers were a mistake. No, really, they were designed by accident when Notch tried to implement a pig model into the game, and it came out looking like that. They were made to explode when they die, because I guess that's funny, and later tweaked to explode as an attack, or when falling onto the player from a certain height. Besides the danger of a very high damage area of effect attack, they also make almost no noise at all, except seconds before detonation. There are two main issues with creepers. First of all, them sneaking up to or falling onto the player without warning and instantly killing them fails to telegraph their presence to the player. In any game, even high difficulty action games like Doom, which even have invisible enemies, it's very important to communicate information to the player so that they can act on it. If they fail, it needs to be their fault, because they chose the wrong response to information they know, and they should know exactly what they did wrong. Sneak attacks and unforeseeable deaths are poor gameplay because they don't allow the player to respond appropriately, and a player that died to them wouldn't know how they should have responded differently realistically. Most of the mobs in Minecraft make noise to announce their presence to the player, and give them ample time to react to the threat, and creepers should too. By having their only warning be a short fuse, creepers test reflexes in an oddly out-of-place way. Even the invisible enemies in Doom have a hazy outline to let the player know they are there at all times, and notably don't kill an armored player in one shot. Secondly, creepers blow up blocks and loose items. This has been touted as a good thing because they hit the player where it hurts. but why is ruining things the player built and making the landscape ugly a good thing? These arguments usually rely on the assumption that danger and unpredictability are inherently good things. They can serve a purpose in the game if it's designed around that and it supports the core gameplay, but they're by no means universally good. Taking away a player's progress by blowing up their nice house, complex and fragile redstone machines, chests, or the items they just dropped after being exploded by another creeper is pointless punishment. People are probably screaming at the screen right now, just don't let them blow up near your stuff. They only explode when you get near them, so it's a skill issue. To touch on that statement, let's go back to the 1970s. In the year 1973, Ford released the Pinto, a compact car designed to be a safe, economic, lightweight vehicle to compete with the imported Japanese cars that were conquering the American market at the time. Unfortunately, Ford was not used to designing compact cars and rushed the cars to market with a dangerous defect. If they got rear-ended, even at low speeds, the gas tank would bust and the car frequently burst into flames. Ford was accused of ending the lives of about 500 people as a result of this design defect. I would like to point out that the lawyers did not succeed in arguing that it's clearly a skill issue and the drivers should just watch out for someone that might rear-end them, and that it's clearly their fault if they got blown up because they couldn't handle the difficulty of avoiding being rear-ended. Destroying blocks after creepers explode isn't part of the challenge. It's just extra punishment after the challenge of killing the creeper is failed. This can be fixed by disabling the block damage from creepers. If you personally like the constant fear of your stuff being destroyed, or the problem solving you like involves combat, you're perfectly welcome to customize your own game to allow for that. But again, it's not a good default for the average player. I would also like to point out, in Terraria, nothing was able to destroy the environment in any way for a long time, until one enemy was added in hard mode, who threw bombs that destroyed blocks. The community revolted, and the destruction ability was walked back. If creepers were first added to Minecraft in the latest version, I believe the community would also riot, because the issues with the design wouldn't have nostalgia and tradition obscuring them. Usually, when games make inefficient use of operant conditioning, they make the mistake of using some form of punishment by debuffing you when you die, or take away progress if you fail a dungeon, or something like that. Phantoms are a somewhat more rare example of negative reinforcement in games. Before Phantoms, beds were somewhat useful because they could instantly skip the night and kill a lot of the hostile service mobs, but the designers wanted players to use them more. They decided the solution to this would be annoying the hell out of the player with Phantoms until they go to sleep in a bed. I'm not bitter. Interestingly, this kind of thing is already a solved problems in games, but before we get into my solution, let's talk about World of Warcraft. Back in early WoW, they didn't want players to play for 8 or 12 hours at a time, so they designed the game so that the experience system would lower the amount received over time. The longer you played, the more your experience degraded, and it felt like being punished for playing, and everyone hated it. So they went back and made it so that when you log out, you get a bonus to experience for a while. An amusing note is it was entirely framing, since they doubled the experience required for everything and gave it a 200% bonus to experience after logging out, eventually going back down to 100. So it was exactly the same leveling experience as before, but either way, players loved it. Taking the example of swapping negative reinforcement for positive reinforcement and bringing it to Minecraft, what I believe we should do to encourage sleeping is have some kind of desirable buff when sleeping. They could call it well-rested or something like that, and give 10 minutes of extra strength or health regeneration or similar, which would encourage players to sleep as often as they could. The drawback to this is, without adding in something like a sleeping bag that allows sleeping without resetting the spawn point, this still discourages exploration, since players still have to keep running back to base to sleep and get the buff. So Adding in a way to sleep without resetting spawn would be another key addition to this feature if you wanted to allow for exploration, which the continuous updates adding varied content to the world would imply is desired. Phantoms could even be reused, making them rarely spawning solo mobs that spice up combat, or be spawned occasionally during raids. Let's talk about user affordances. Affordances are cues that hint how a user is able to interact with something, whether that be physically with things like door handles, or digitally with things like icons that you can click on to do things. Minecraft has a long history of not explaining what players can do, although it has made some progress in that area. Back when I started playing, if you wanted to craft something, you would have to already have known about it from a YouTube video or wiki page and have memorized the recipe. Or you installed a mod like Not Enough Items and used that. Since then, they've added a recipe book that updates with recipes as you pick up items that would allow you to craft them, and the game notifies you when you're able to craft something new. This is a massive improvement for the new user experience. But there are still plenty of areas where there's no in-game way a player could possibly know about things unless they already knew about it. One example is enchanting tables. A player could get an alert that they now unlocked a recipe and craft an enchanting table. If the player right-clicks the table, they see an interface like this. There's a slot with an icon that looks like lapis, which presumably goes in that slot, but no indication what goes in the other. A player could put in random items and might notice that only one goes in at a time, but nothing happens when they do. Eventually, they might put in a tool and see some enchantment show up on the right. It's not clear what the numbers on the right mean, but the ones on the left are experience orbs, so by trial and error, they could figure out how enchantments work. They demonstrated that they can show information when hovering over an enchantment, indicating what the enchantment is, and what goes in the lapis slot. But there's no help button, context hover, or other indicator what goes in the other slot. The player might encounter enchanted tools, armors, or books from mob drops, fishing, or chest loot, and thus might figure out that they could enchant those things. So again, I'll give this a pass. My main problem with enchanting tables is, looking at the block or interface, how is the player supposed to know that they can improve the table using bookshelves, or how those shelves need to be laid out? And while we're at it, how do they know they need to make enchanted books and then combine the books and or tools in an anvil to get multiple enchantments on a tool? Overall, some things like the enchantment table still need some work, adding in something like tooltips or guides that inform a new player how they are supposed to be used. I think I've kicked the hornet's nest enough for one video, so I'll call it there. I've linked in the description some videos other people have made on similar topics like difficulty in games and how punishments can interfere with the learning loop, if you're interested. If you're not interested, I'm not sure how you made it all the way to the outro, but feel free to leave a comment about how angry you are and give that like button a sarcastic smack. That'll really show me. Anyway, see you all next time.